Hello and welcome to the PhotoVidShow tutorials, version 4.41. In today's tutorial we're talking about adding background music, or adding background music to your slideshow. Also we're going to talk about how you can adjust your music so they start and end on particular slides and things like that. So let's get started. Here we have my slideshow which I've put together of my France holiday. I've added all the photos and video and I'm very much happy with it now. It's complete and all it really needs is some background music to it. Now to add background music to your storyboard, which will appear here as music bars, you need to click on this icon here, this add background music to the slideshow button. So I'm going to left click there, and normally it will go default to your music folder or whatever you set as your default music folder in the PhotoVidShow editor. So we've got 4 pieces of music here and I'm going to add all 4 pieces of music. I've just simply highlighted them like that. I've just dragged and dropped and opened them. Now PhotoVidShow normally accepts things like MP3s, M4As or NWAs, some most common audio formats. It shouldn't really be a problem. So I'm going to select open there. Okay, it's telling me that one or more music tracks we imported in slideshow starts after the current slideshow ends. Okay, all that's showing. I'll explain that now. Actually, I'll just say okay. What PhotoVidShow does by default, it simply from those 4 pieces of music, it just adds them in one after another. So it adds the first piece of music in, then the second piece of music, then the third and the fourth. So they just play one after another. It's the track listing for your slideshow. What that warning was telling us is that some of the music we've added would actually appear after the slideshow ends, because our slideshow is only 5 minutes long, and so we're not going to worry about that now. We will need it. I will explain later on. So normally by default you could just leave it like that. You've got your slideshow and it starts playing the music when you preview here, and it just, it goes through your photos one after another and it just continuously plays the background music. You can skip through here if you want to, just to see it. So that would be the default behaviour with PhotoVidShow. Out of interest, if I only added one piece of music, which was 4 minutes 15, what it will do is it will automatically loop that music, so it will loop it again, so until it fills out the slideshow. If you want to rearrange the order your music is played in, then there are various ways to do it. You can actually simply right click on the music bar and say move down order or move up order. As I say, there's our first music piece, there's our second one. If we want to move that up order, we can move it up like that, and it's now adjusted the order they appear in, so that this music piece is now first. You can do that, but a better way to do it actually is if you double left click on this music bar or any music bar, and another way is if you select that little tick on the right there and select add or edit slideshow music track listing. That also brings it up. It lists here the track listing for your slideshow, so you can see it will play this music piece first, then that music piece, and then it would play these music pieces, but our slideshow simply isn't long enough. That's why it's in red. You can see it says, you can see each music piece, what time it will start and how long it will end and what the length of it is. So that's fine. And now for each piece, each of our music pieces here, each one of our tracks here, if you like, when you left click on it, it's highlighted. This bit up here changes such that you can actually trim the music. Say this music piece is 4 minutes 15, but say you want to trim it a little bit, you can actually adjust these. I'll come back to this in a minute and show you how to do this, because we're going to need to do this later on. Also, if you want to set the volume of the music piece, you can change it there. So you can go through each one adjust things. Also, this allows you to add more music. If you want to add some more music to your track listing, just click the add and select any more music you want to do. If you want to remove a piece of music, you can just select remove there. And also these arrows allow you to change the order, similar to what we saw just now, if I wanted to change the order of the track listing. The reset button there, if you select something and hit reset, it just simply resets all these trimming values, which we'll show in a minute. If you want to preview any of your music pieces, you can just select play here and it will play it. So you can generally play with your music here. So I'll close that for a second. Now that's fine for this particular slideshow. Maybe we're just happy with that and we just want to play the music throughout. But a common question, and something that comes up quite a lot, is that you say, well, actually, if I go up to the start, there's actually 15 seconds of an intro sequence here. Maybe I just don't want any music playing at all. Maybe I want this completely silent, and then actually I want the music to start at time 15 seconds. Like maybe I want music to start there, or perhaps I want the music to end on a particular slide. This is quite common. So say, because my slideshow is split up into different sections here, this is Bayer and just before that was the Normandy beaches, so maybe for each section I want it to start a new music piece. How do I do all that? Well, I'll show you how to do that now. So the first things first, I'm going to show you how to add some initial silence. There's two ways to do this, and I'll cover another way how to do this later on in this tutorial. But back to the start, when we start the slideshow, the music starts straight away, but maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we want it to be silent for the first 15 seconds, so it cuts in on this slide. If I go back to that track listing window here by double left clicking on there, or selecting that tick option, if I select the first music piece, there's actually something here called initial silence. Now I could set that just to 15 seconds, like I said, and as you can see, it's actually pushed all the times up here because I've now increased the length of this music piece by 15 seconds. So when I start my slideshow now, for the first 15 seconds it will be completely silent, and the music will hopefully start at 15 seconds when my first intro slide here begins. There we go. So that's good. So I'm going to stop that now. What we want it to do is continue playing this music piece right up until time 2 minutes 11 seconds where we want. So how do we do that? Now there's a really simple way to do this in PhotoVidShow. If you left click on a slide, you want the music piece to end on, so we want it to end when this slide ends. As soon as this slide ends, we want our music piece to end. So we left click there, then you right click on your music piece below, which will be playing at that time, and you select end music on selected slide. There we go, and as you can see, it's now cut it there, and the next music piece will start. So if I play it from that slide by hitting play and then left clicking on that slide, as you can see, it starts the next music piece on this slide. So we'll go through, and again we want the same thing to happen here. We want the music to continue playing until the Monster Michelle slide comes up. So we left click on that slide, right click on the music piece below and select end music on selected slide. So if we just preview that, that's the last slide there, and now it's going into this one. Okay, it starts the next music piece here, but there was some initial silence there. So maybe we want to remove that initial silence. So if I double click there, so it brings up this drifting music piece. If I preview it, you can see music doesn't really start playing until so maybe at 10 seconds we want it to start. So what you can do, this thing here will trim the start of the music piece, this bar here. So we want to trim the first 10 seconds. I move this little toggle here, this is the preview toggle. So that's how it will start now, like that. Also I could do a quick fade in effect. There we go, see? This bar here will actually trim the end of it. We're not going to do that now, so we'll leave that as. So we'll click done. So when we preview this part of the slideshow again, as you can see, there we go, it started our music piece exactly where we wanted it to. So we're going to finish off here by ending that music piece on this slide here. So we left click there, right click, select end music on selected slide. Just show that again. There we go. Okay, so that's fine, and then that carries on. So this is actually now using all the 4 pieces of music, see, because we've trimmed them up. It's now used all 4 pieces of music. Now if I go back to the track listing again by double clicking on a music bar or just selecting that, you can see now that those last 2 pieces are no longer red because they are included in the slideshow. And also, when you've done that end music piece on selected slide, it will automatically done this trim for you. So basically it's a shortcut just to trim the music pieces here. So you can see each one is now trimmed the music piece accordingly, and it's also applied a fade out effect. Okay, something else I want to show you here. Another very common question is that if you've got a video in your slideshow, which I have here, so here we got a video of 18 seconds, and you can tell it's a video because it's got the little sort of white dots on the side here. When I preview that, it plays the music, and you also may have video audio at the same time. Now this is just crashing waves and that, but often it will be a video of someone talking and that. So often you don't want your background music playing when your video's playing, you know, because you can't hear what's going on. Now there's a simple trick to fix this. If you right click on the video slide and select edit slide media, which we've covered in the previous tutorial, there's something here called fade background music when video playing. All you need to do is simply tick it, and when you enable that, it will simply fade out the background music when the video is playing. It also allows you to say how much you want to fade it out by. If you do 100%, it will completely remove any background music. You won't want to hear any background music when the video is playing. I'll just quickly show that. So if we just preview this part of the slideshow again, as you can see, it's completely removed the background music. So you can say you wanted to hear the crashing waves like that. More typically, you want to just quieten down the background music a little bit. So if I put that down to say 60%, then select done. Now if we preview that again, it's just quieted down a little bit. So there we go, that's a very useful trick to know. So you can do that to any of your video slides. If you want to lower the background audio whilst your video's playing, you can just do it like that. Now another thing which can often happen is that when you add your videos in and your narrations and your music, we'll cover narrations in the next tutorial, sometimes the volumes are drastically different, so often your videos can be quite quiet and your music can be quite loud. Now there is a way to adjust this to balance it out. If you click this spanner icon here and select the music audio tab, there's something here called audio master volumes. Now normally these are set up here at 100% and they cover video audio, background music and narration audio. And these master volumes apply to any video, any background music or any narration audio in your slideshow. It applies to all of them, so it's a sort of master volume. So quite typically you may want to just decrease the volume of your background music and have something like this. By default they're like that. I've had to quiet them down a little bit because I'm talking in my microphone and I didn't want the music to just blast out and you not hear me, so I had to quiet them down a bit. Quite typically you may want to just lower the background music if it's and keep the video full volume, so it balances out better. Whilst I'm here, I'll just show you some other options which are in here. That's just to say we automatically loop background music. This is what I was saying earlier, that if we've added some like one music piece, but it isn't long enough for the slideshow. If we got one music piece of say 2 minutes, but we've got a 5-minute slideshow, it'll just simply repeat that music over and over again until the slideshow's ended. So that's normally just want that on. I can't think why you wouldn't want that. This is just to say if we want to fade the background music at the start and end of the slideshow, those default settings are fine. Another option is something called sync slideshow to background music. I hardly ever use this. It's hard to think why you really need this, but I think some people do like it. So what you can do, say you just want your slideshow to absolutely sync with your background music. Say you've added a 2-minute background music and you want a slideshow that's exactly 2 minutes. You can click on that and it will work out. What it does is it works out how long each slide should be displayed for, such that it will sync with your background music. As I say, I don't really use that option, so we'll leave that as it is. Okay, so here we go. I'm reasonably happy with my slideshow and my background music. The only thing I'm going to show you now is sometimes just now I showed you that you could add initial silence to your slideshow. So in here we added a 15-second initial silence to our slideshow, and then we started the first we started the music at 15 seconds. Now if I go back to that track listing, whoops, not that one, as you can see we can only really apply up to 40 seconds of initial silence. Now there are cases where you may want to add minutes of initial silence. Say you've added, for whatever reason, you've added a long video at the start or some slides, and you just want the first say 5 minutes or first 3 minutes to be completely quiet. This is a useful trick to pull that off, and I'll just what I'll do is I'll show you how to do it with just these 15 seconds. So let's go back to that and remove that initial silence. There we go, so the music starts. I'm going to quiet this down a bit. There we go. The music starts right at the start, but we want some initial silence there. But we don't want to do it, by that trick I showed just now. We're going to do it another way. What you can do is add some music. Doesn't matter what it is, even if it's the same as something you've added before. So we can add it to that. As you can see that now, we're going to move that right to the front. So we've duplicated it twice, and then we're going to do that end music on selected slide trick again. So we want to end our initial silence on that slide. We right click there, end music on selected slide. So there we can see, and we can simply set this music piece to have no volume. So if I just select that first music piece to have 0 volume, like that. As you can see, we've now simply added a 15-second initial silence. And that could be any length we wanted it to be, really. So there we go, we've added another initial silence at the start of our slideshow. And at time 15 seconds, our first music piece will start. There we go. Now, I believe in future versions of PhotoVidShow, they're going to modify this a little bit, so to make this a bit easier than having to apply these tricks I've just said. So there is also another way to set exactly when music pieces start and end, and that's actually to apply music or sounds to your narration bar. I'm going to cover that in the next tutorial. Normally, the tricks I've just shown you today are all you need to know to add background music to your slideshow. Everything there will normally be all you need to know. Okay, I hope you've learnt a lot today. We've covered a lot, and I've shown you how you can add background music to your slideshow and how you can time your music pieces so they start and end on particular slides you want to, how to trim your music pieces. We've covered how to quieten down the background music whilst the video is playing so you can hear the video audio. And I've also showed you how to add initial silences to sections. So see you soon for the next tutorial.